Hey, welcome to my podcast where I discuss the origins of all sorts of things. I'm your host, Danny Payne, and this is On the Origin of Everything. Today I'm talking about advertising. We're exposed to 5,000 ads per day, and the average adult will see 2 million commercials each year. The most recognized word in the world is okay, and the second, Coca-Cola. We know that advertising is very effective, and there's a lot of fascinating psychology behind it, so let's get started. The oldest advertising we have ever found was a wine for sale sign from 3,000 years ago in Babylonia. We have also found advertisements on the walls of Pompeii, advertising theater shows and sporting events. In the Middle Ages, almost no one could read or write, so advertising with written words was not super useful. Instead, they used criers, who were walking advertisers, just someone walking around shouting the information, like a walking commercial. Makes me think of beer vendors at stadiums. Another way they advertised to an illiterate public was through visuals, like barber poles. That's why those exist. The red and white barber pole came out of the Middle Ages as an early form of advertising. I love that we're still using them. In the 1400s, we see the word advertisen appear for the first time. It meant to notify. Also in the 1400s, we got the Gutenberg press, and the first English language advertisement was printed in the late 1470s by William Caxton in London. It advertised a religious handbook called the Sarum Ordinal. At the bottom of the ad, it said in Latin, Supplico stet sedula. Please do not remove this handbill. Seems like people have been taking other people's ads down since the very beginning. When I played in a band years ago, we would go around the city putting up posters for our shows, and they'd be torn down or covered up by another band's poster almost immediately. I can't believe that's been going on since the 1400s. The first time an advertisement appeared in American print was in 1704 in the Boston Newsletter. This was a weekly newsletter that reported on events across the Atlantic. In the very first issue, the publisher John Campbell included an ad offering space in his newsletter for advertisements, an ad for an ad, like those "Your Business Here" signs. I'll read what it said, and pay attention to how incomprehensible this Old English is. This newsletter is to be continued weekly, and all persons who have any houses, lands, tenements, farms, ships, vessels, goods, wares, or merchandises to be sold or let, or servants run away, or goods stole or lost, may have the same inserted at a reasonable rate, from 12 pence to 5 shillings, and not to exceed. Who may agree with Nicholas Spoons for the same at his shop, next door to Major Davis's apothecary in Boston, near the old meeting house. All persons in town and country may have said newsletter weekly upon reasonable terms, agreeing with John Campbell, postmaster for the same. It started out okay, and then it lost me. Just 2 weeks after this publication, the first 3 paid advertisements were printed in the Boston Newsletter. One of them offered a reward for the return of some stuff that was stolen. Another one listed a plantation and mill for sale. And the last one also offered a reward for 2 lost iron anvils. Pretty mundane stuff. But it wasn't long before these ads got more interesting, like this one. Captain Peter Lawrence is going a privateering from Rhode Island in a good sloop, about 60 tons, 6 guns, and 90 men for Canada, and any gentlemen or sailors that are disposed to go shall be kindly entertained. On a darker note, many advertisements solicited the sale of enslaved people or a reward for the capture and return of a runaway slave. This was the 1700s after all, and though Massachusetts is known today as the cradle of liberty, it has a pretty robust history with slavery. Benjamin Franklin was the first to advertise political cartoons in the Pennsylvania Gazette in 1754. Is there anything that Ben Franklin didn't do? The cartoon is known as Join or Die, with a snake all cut up into pieces, each section representing a different colony, emphasizing the need to unite with Great Britain to defeat the French and Indians. In the first part of the 1800s, advertising didn't really change very much, Just a lot of short, dry descriptions like fresh milk or tobacco for sale signs. About as interesting as a help wanted sign. Runaway slave ads, on the other hand, were the only ones that consistently had thorough descriptions, sketches, and a variety of typefaces. In 1841, we got the first advertising agency in the United States by a man named Volney Palmer in Philadelphia. He was the son of a newspaper entrepreneur, so he was no stranger to advertising that way. But he had actually left the family newspaper business to sell real estate and only started an advertising agency because his real estate business was failing. The dude was just trying to survive and inadvertently changed history. How? He pioneered the practice of matching advertisers with publications as a service. He would help advertisers write the copy, and then he would strategize which publication to advertise with. He was wildly successful too. We've been talking about newsprint ads, but what about billboards? Advertising on billboards became popular in the post-Civil War era. Businesses started purchasing outdoor space for advertising purposes to separate themselves from the competition. Existing walls and fences had become saturated with ads, so it made a lot of sense to build your own structure to advertise on, and thus the billboard was born. In the late 1800s is when advertising became really interesting. A profound change occurred in business as industries began to mass produce, and this created the need to sell larger quantities to a larger population. Advertising fulfilled that need. Before the late 1800s, only patent medicine was advertising robustly with huge, colorful, dramatic signs advertising their pills and potions. But eventually, other industries started doing the same to sell their soap or cigarettes or whatever else to the masses. It wasn't just manufacturers doing this. Department stores like Macy's, Sears Roebuck, and Montgomery Ward started advertising heavily to sell their many products to as many customers as possible. The early 1900s, especially the 1920s, saw a rise in mass circulation magazines and radio ads. Between 1880 and 1920, the advertising spending in the United States grew from $200 million to $3 billion in just 40 years. Advertising in the early 1900s continued to evolve. The nation's economy was changing from one of industrial production to one of consumerism. President Calvin Coolidge in 1926 said this about the advertising business. Advertising ministers to the spiritual side of trade. It is a great power that has been entrusted to your keeping, which charges you with the high responsibility of inspiring and ennobling the commercial world. It is all part of the greater work of generation and redemption of mankind. I guess Silent Cal wasn't so silent on the matter, was he? The brand new FDA had a major impact on advertising. Suddenly, advertisers were focusing on the health benefits of a product and its purity. Made with only the best ingredients, distilled 3 times, that sort of thing. A lot was going on almost all at once, so it's hard to put it all in order, but there were basically 4 big advertising ideas that emerged in the 20th century. Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins, Unique Selling Proposition by Rosser Reeves, Brand Image by David Ogilvy, and Integrated Marketing Communications by Don Schultz. I'll briefly go through each one. Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins brought a hard sell approach to copywriting, adamant that the customer needed a reason why they should buy. Then he applied the scientific method, studying what worked and what didn't. So instead of throwing up a billboard that simply advertised a product or a business, Hopkins crafted a proper sales pitch, then studied its effectiveness and made changes accordingly. This was the very early stages of what would become the field of market and opinion research. Rosser Reeves took it a step further with his unique selling proposition, which aimed at distinguishing a product from others. You buy this shaving cream over other shaving creams because it's got menthol and aloe, leaving your skin refreshed and smooth. Nothing beats it. You're missing out if you're using something else. Come experience the difference with, Barbasol. I have Barbasol on my mind because I was just telling Jez that I've been using the same Barbasol can for like 3 years. That thing is like a Mary Poppins purse. Anyway, Rosser Reeves came up with the functional differentiation, but he also came up with the concept of a repetitive slogan. The best a man can get. Tough actin' tenactin'. Eat fresh. That sort of thing. The problem with Rosser Reeves' unique selling proposition, however, is that eventually competitors will copy the claim, and it's no longer effective because it's no longer special. To overcome that, David Ogilvy championed a way to give differentiation longevity in a new way. Instead of using functionality as the differentiator, he suggested using an image or a personality, something more abstract. He called it brand image. If you think about it, that's harder to copy without looking stupid. Imagine if Burger King had come out with their own clown after seeing how massively successful Ronald McDonald was. It doesn't work. The absolute master of this brand image practice was Leo Burnett. His agency came up with the Jolly Green Giant, Tony the Tiger, the Marlboro Man, the Pillsbury Doughboy, Toucan Sam, the Maytag Repairman, and even Ronald McDonald. That was his baby too. The dude was brilliant at this. Leo Burnett introduced the idea of making an emotional connection with the products we intend to purchase. He was famous for selling to your feelings. Humans aren't great at making an emotional connection with a cold bowl of cornflakes, but if you attach a likable personality like Tony the Tiger and his infectious, "They're great," now you've captured the hearts of millions. Personalities or characters like Jake from State Farm and Flo from Progressive allow us to develop a relationship with the brand that we aren't otherwise able to do. How could we possibly care about car insurance the way we care about that cute little Geico gecko with the endearing Australian accent? Brilliant stuff from Leo Burnett. And lastly, Don Schultz introduced integrated marketing communications, which just means being consistent with your message across all media, being congruent with all the ways in which you're trying to reach your audience. It seems kind of obvious, but it's worth mentioning because 100 years ago, there were a handful of places in which to advertise, and now there are countless. It's easy to send mixed signals and undermine the effectiveness of your branding goals if you aren't focused on conveying a clear, cohesive message, promoting a definable lifestyle or image throughout every advertising outlet. We live in a time where we are bombarded by so many ads that we are willing to pay a subscription to see less of them. There are ads on the baggage claim carousels now, above urinals, and every third post on your Instagram feed is a sponsored ad. I'm fascinated by the psychology behind it all and how we got here. There would have never been a need for the development of this industry if it weren't for our sudden ability to mass-produce products and our shift toward consumerism in a capitalist economy. Advertising today is a culmination of what Volney Palmer was doing in the mid-1800s to effectively match advertisers with publishers, and what Hopkins, Reeves, Ogilvy, Burnett, and Schultz developed in the 20th century to perfect the craft of slogans, mascots, and branding. Concepts that are effective in any industry with the sole purpose of getting us, the consumer, to keep on buying their stuff. And that's the origin story of advertising. Stick around for the origin of Jingles right after these ads. Kidding, but don't go anywhere. This episode is brought to you by nothing. To help keep ads off this show, consider donating by clicking the Patreon link in the show notes, or by going to patreon.com/ontheoriginofeverything. Another way you can support this show is by giving it a 5-star rating and review, or by following it, or sharing it. Let's build a community of people that are curious and always learning. Now, back to the show. Today's part 2 is on jingles. A jingle is an advertisement in the form of music and lyrics. It makes sense that someone would eventually figure out that music would be an effective tool in advertising. Think about how a movie score enhances each scene, the emotions of the characters, the drama and action as it unfolds. Music sets a mood. It's super powerful in film, and it's super powerful in advertising as well. The same way music can help you memorize something, like the alphabet, it can help you remember a product. and the catchier, the better. But who was the first to come up with the jingle? The first jingle ever was a radio ad in 1926 for Wheaties. A little bit of background first. The Washburn-Crosby Company was a flour mill in Minneapolis established in 1866. In the 1920s, there was a big shift in demand for more nutritious whole grains as opposed to white flour. The Washburn-Crosby Company was in financial trouble and needed to find a solution to increase sales. And since the cereal market was trending upward, they developed those little brown Wheatie flakes and called them Washburn's Gold Medal Whole Wheat Flakes. It wasn't long before they changed that mouthful of a name to just Wheaties. But they didn't sell very well at first. Then, someone at the company had the brilliant idea to create a promotional song to air on the radio. The lyrics were written to the tune of a popular song at the time called She's a Jazz Baby. It went like this.
Have you tried Wheaties? They're whole wheat with all of the bran. Won't you try Wheaties? For wheat is the best food of man. They're crispy and crunchy the whole year through. The kiddies never tire of them, and neither will you. So just buy Wheaties, the best breakfast food in the land.
Doesn't that sound like a collaboration between Woody Guthrie and the Vultures on the Jungle Book? It does to me. So, they aired this little jingle on the radio in the Twin Cities area of Minnesota, and sales went through the roof, but only in that area. Sales everywhere else stayed the same. So they knew they had a great advertising campaign on their hands, and swiftly blasted that little song all over the country, making Wheaties the national brand that it is today. Thanks to the jingle. Wheaties went on to become the most popular cereal in America, and the Washburn-Crosby Company bought out a few other mills and became General Mills in 1928. A little more on Wheaties. I know that this turned out to be more about Wheaties than about Jingles, but I was just following the story. I wanted to know, who was the first athlete to be on the Wheaties box? It was Baseball Hall of Famer Lou Gehrig in 1934, the same person that Lou Gehrig's disease is named after. Also around that time, Wheaties introduced their famous slogan, the Breakfast of Champions. That was pretty early on. Almost 100 years later, the Wheaties box on the grocery store shelf today still says, the Breakfast of Champions. Wheaties ushered in an era of jingles. 80% of advertisements between 1950 and 1980 had music, whether it was a bona fide jingle or just a song. They had a major cultural impact, too. All the ones I remember are from the 80s and 90s. I'll have a random jingle stuck in my head from time to time, then I'll stop and realize I've been whistling the Mentos song all day. Jingles have staying power. They're less prevalent in today's world, but they're still around. They've actually evolved from entire songs to a single melodic phrase to a single sound called sonic logos. The Netflix "Ka-kung" comes to mind. And it all started in 1926 with a barbershop quartet singing a whole song about cereal. That's it for today. I'm going to go have a huge bowl of Wheaties now. The best breakfast food in the land. And before I go, I want to thank those who have already subscribed to the show. It means a lot to us. It takes about 40 hours of research and production to make each episode, and your donations help this show go. If you haven't done so already, please click the link in the show notes and send us a few bucks. $5 a month, $10 a month, it all adds up, and it's greatly appreciated. We also want to grow our listenership, so if you can think of someone who would also enjoy the work we're doing here, share it with them. It's an easy way to help us continue to do this for years to come. We've got listeners in Canada, France, Spain, the UK, Indonesia, and even Pakistan and Singapore. It really feels like we're building a community of people who are curious and always learning. Thank you for your support and thank you for listening. Until next time, so long. Research, music, and production was all done by Desiree Wilson. This podcast is listener-supported, owned and operated by Jez and myself under the On the Origin of Everything LLC in the United States. All rights reserved. We can be reached via email at info@ontheoriginpod.com.